Did you know that before Jackie Robinson stepped onto the baseball field, and before Martin Luther King Jr. ever said, "I have a dream," a group of young black men were already changing the course of American history from 30,000 feet in the air? They were the Tuskegee Airmen, the first African-American military pilots in U.S. history, war heroes, barrier breakers, icons of excellence. They fought two wars at once, one against fascism overseas and another against racism at home. And yet, against all odds, they soared. Stay with us, because this isn't just a story about warplanes and missions. It's about courage, legacy, and how a group of men took on history and won. If you believe stories like this deserve more attention, like this video, subscribe for more powerful Black history deep dives, and hit the bell so you never miss the heroes they didn't teach you about in school. The United States in the 1930s and 40s was a country divided, not just by class or economics, but by race and law. Jim Crow ruled the South. Segregation was the standard. Black Americans could not vote freely, live where they wanted, or even serve equally in their own military. And when it came to aviation, the idea of a black combat pilot was considered not just unlikely, but impossible. The military claimed black men lacked the intelligence, the discipline, and the courage to fly. But black communities across America knew better. They had the skill. They had the education. They had the will. All they needed was a chance. After pressure from the black press, civil rights leaders, and political allies, the government finally relented, but only as an experiment. In 1941, they created a segregated pilot training program in a small town in Alabama. That town? Tuskegee. What was meant to be a quiet failure became the birthplace of a revolution. The men who would make history weren't celebrities. They weren't wealthy. But they were prepared to defy gravity and defy expectations. Benjamin O. Davis Jr. was one of the first. Son of the U.S. Army's first black general, Davis entered West Point and spent 4 long years in isolation. No one spoke to him. No one ate with him. He graduated 35th in his class and never cracked. He would later become the commander of the famed 332nd Fighter Group. Charles McGee would go on to fly over 400 combat missions. That's right, not just in World War II, but in Korea and Vietnam as well. His career became a blueprint for military excellence. Roscoe Brown Jr. was a scholar and a fighter. He earned a doctorate in education and once shot down a German jet fighter, the fastest plane in the war. Daniel Chappie James Jr. would eventually rise to become the first black 4-star general in U.S. history. These weren't just soldiers. These were leaders, scholars, sons, fathers. They were young men from across America, trained under pressure, driven by purpose. Many had college degrees before ever stepping into a cockpit. They studied late, trained hard, and lived under a microscope, because any failure, even one, would be used to discredit the entire program. Their days began before dawn. Classroom work, flight simulations, maintenance checks, endless drills, all while navigating racism from instructors, commanders, and sometimes even their fellow servicemen. The odds were stacked against them, but failure wasn't an option. And still, they rose. At Tuskegee, they built a legacy from the ground up. The base itself was segregated. Facilities were inferior. Aircraft were outdated. But the determination, unmatched. The first to graduate formed the 99th Pursuit Squadron, the first all-black flying unit in U.S. military history. Soon after, they were deployed. first to North Africa, then to Italy, then to the very heart of Nazi-occupied Europe. Their mission was simple: protect American bombers from German fighter planes. But their task was anything but easy. German aircraft were faster, more advanced, and flown by battle-hardened veterans. The skies were unforgiving, but the Tuskegee Airmen developed a reputation: precise, disciplined, relentless. Their aircraft bore a signature mark: bright red tails, visible even from far away. It became their nickname, the Red Tails. Bomber crews began to request them by name. While many fighter groups would abandon bombers to chase enemy kills, the Red Tails stuck to their mission: protect at all costs. And protect they did. Over 15,000 sorties. More than 100 enemy aircraft destroyed. Dozens of transport trains, tanks, and vehicles neutralized. And hundreds of bomber crews brought home safely. In the skies, they were legends. On the ground, they were still second-class citizens. They were barred from officers' clubs, segregated from their white counterparts, denied promotions, denied recognition. But still, they flew. When the war ended, they didn't return to parades or open arms. They returned to a segregated America, still denied basic rights. Most commercial airlines refused to hire black pilots, no matter how many combat missions they had flown. Housing discrimination was still legal. Many found themselves jobless or forced into menial work. But some carved a new path. Some became educators, mentors, community leaders. Some entered politics. Some fought for civil rights. Their sacrifices were not in vain. In 1948, just 3 years after World War II ended, President Harry Truman issued Executive Order 9981, desegregating the United States Armed Forces. The decision was fueled in large part by the service and success of the Tuskegee Airmen. They didn't just change the battlefield. They changed policy. They changed perception. They changed America. As time passed, the world began to take notice. In 1995, their story hit screens across the nation with the HBO movie The Tuskegee Airmen. In 2012, George Lucas released Red Tails, introducing the next generation to their heroism and grit. But their greatest impact isn't in movies, it's in the skies. Today, black pilots fly commercial jets, military aircraft, and spacecraft. Thanks in no small part to the barriers broken by the Tuskegee Airmen. Organizations like Tuskegee Airmen Inc. still carry the mission forward, providing scholarships, mentoring youth, and promoting aviation careers for African Americans across the country. Their names now appear on buildings, street signs, museums. But their true legacy lives in every young person who sees a cockpit and dares to say, "That could be me." They fought not for glory, not for medals, but for the right to serve, to fly, to be seen. And in doing so, they helped change the face of America. What surprised you most about their journey? Drop a comment and let us know. Their legacy deserves to be heard and remembered. If you found this story powerful, like this video, subscribe for more untold Black history and share it with someone who needs to know the truth. Because the Tuskegee Airmen weren't just warriors. They were visionaries. And their legacy still flies. Fly high, stay legendary.